OK, let's take it to the skies now, where Virgin Australia workers have ramped up their campaign for better conditions as the company prepares to go public 3 years after entering voluntary administration. The National Secretary of the Transport Workers Union, Michael Cain, joins us now from Brisbane Airport. Michael, good morning. What are the workers calling for here?
Oh, good morning, Michael. Well, these workers behind me are just about to step into negotiations with Virgin, actually, cabin crew and ground services. And, of course, they're representing workers that are exhausted and, quite frankly, angry, Michael. They're feeling overworked and undervalued. This is the same group of workers, to remind your viewers, that with Bain Capital, the owners of Virgin, pulled this company out of administration. And they did it on the back of sacrifice in wages, sacrifices in their conditions. And then they had to extend that sacrifice, those emergency conditions, because of the COVID crisis. And now, quite rightly, there's a reasonable expectation that they'll be repaid for that they'll be compensated for it, and that the emergency settings will be removed and we can get back to good, solid jobs at Virgin. And that's why overnight, Michael, we've written to the owners of Virgin, Bain Capital and others, and said to them that we want a commitment from you to ensure that there is respect in the workforce, which Virgin is renowned for, good, secure jobs, that there's a reward in the form of a share scheme for these workers, that there's investment in technology and planes, and most importantly, that there is reform in this industry so that we can ensure that decisions in aviation are made not just in the profit interests of companies, but also in the interests of passengers and good, solid jobs in aviation.
You're talking about potential access to a share scheme. What in particular are you calling for on behalf of the Virgin employees?
Well, for too long in aviation, workers have been treated as a cost rather than an investment. And we've seen that in the Qantas operation, where jobs were absolutely decimated, workers were outsourced in some circumstances illegally, and that led to an absolute crisis because experienced workers just exited the industry. We need to treat workers as an investment, and one way we can do that, now that Bain has already recouped $730 million from its initial investment and on the cusp of an initial public offering, is to offer workers, the Virgin workforce, a share in that profit. And you can do that, as is common in Australia, through a share scheme, an employee share scheme, $1,000 worth of shares on the initial public offering for each employee. They get a say in the company, they get an absolute, to be an integral part of the company and the profit pathway that we all want it to take.
OK. Well, as you rightly said, Michael, this is pretty much the norm for companies that float, giving employees access to some share scheme. So I guess you're calling here for something that the company is more than likely to give the workers anyway?
Well, no, this would be quite unique in a kind of blue-collar type arrangement that we're talking about here. But it would be a novel way to reward these workers. Now, these workers, really, we owe them a debt of gratitude in this country because the second airline, which is so critical to us, is back in the air because of their sacrifices. Now it's time for that sacrifice to be repaid. It's an angry workforce at the moment. It's one that feels undervalued. We're going into negotiations. There'll be an expectation that there is compensation for their sacrifice. And these workers, just as they are willing to fight to get this airline back in the air, are willing to fight to make sure there are good jobs at Virgin.
Michael Cain from TWU, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Michael.